Claire, you're a lecturer in health science and your particular specialism is neuroscience. Can you tell me a little bit about your research and how you got into that area?
Well, I became interested in psychology as an undergraduate. That was what my first degree was in, purely because I'm fascinated about why people behave in the way that they do and what's happening inside their heads. And I'm particularly interested in the thought processes of attention and learning. And I didn't feel that as psychologists we could have any kind of conversation about those processes without reference to what's going on in the brain. So my research is really about learning about the brain basis of attention. And I'm interested in the role of a particular structure in the brain in attention. And that structure is called the pedunculopontine tegmental nucleus.
Good Lord.
So we abbreviate it to PPN for short.
PPN, that I can manage, okay.
And that's located right down here in the brainstem. And a lot of research has so far shown that attention is mediated by this wrinkly area on the top of the brain here, which would be the cortex. And so this cortical information does eventually make it down here to the brainstem, but I'm very interested in studying this particular structure and how it's involved in attention. And it's become a very important structure in recent times to study the function of, because it has become a target for treatment for Parkinson's disease. And this particular treatment is deep brain stimulation. So that would involve inserting an electrode into people's brains and altering the function of the pedunculopontine tegmental nucleus. And so obviously if we're going to be doing a treatment like that and performing a surgical procedure like that, we really need to know as much as we possibly can about the function of this structure.
Okay, that's great. So that's your research. How does that research then feed into Open University teaching excellence?
Well, I've been at the Open University for about 7.5 years now, and I've been involved in module production since I arrived. I think the one I'm most proud of is one of our second level undergraduate modules, and that's a very innovative module because it's aiming to teach practical science skills to our students, but using a virtual online environment. And one of the units that I've created for that module is called Attention in the Brain, so it's directly related to my research area. And what we've done is allowed students to work with my own research data, so it's cutting edge data that they're working with, and they're forming their own hypotheses about these data and testing them by statistically analysing my data. So it's been really great to be able to share that with our students.
So that's fantastic. They're using your actual data to do their own research project.
That's right. It's great to be able to share that experience with them.
I want to ask you now about an experience that you've had that is another part of what the Open University does, which is co-productions series with the BBC. What's that been like?
That's been absolutely amazing to have that opportunity to feed my academic expertise into a BBC co-production. So the one that I was involved in working with is Countdown to Life, The Extraordinary Making of You. And that tells the story of human development right from the moment of conception through to the moment of birth. And what we're trying to convey is the incredibly complex but coordinated nature of the biological processes that are happening inside the womb and what can happen to people sometimes when things don't quite go according to plan. So I think the programme gives a really nice mix of the human story and the science. And of course my involvement is to use my Open University expertise in conveying science in an accessible way and to feed into this programme. So I would do things like commenting on the scripts, watching rough cuts of the programme, making suggestions of the ways in which we could tell the story of the science. And part of my involvement also has been in making some of our module material freely available for the public on our Open Learn website. So I've worked very hard to identify stories that we can take from the programme and to make links to our material. And so we've covered things like cells and cell diversity, the immune system, and we've even got something on there on the brain. And I'm very proud of one of our assets that we've been able to share, which is our interactive 3D brain. They're much like this one, but a bit more fun, and people can click on the brain and learn about the different parts of it and what those parts are doing.
I want to close by kind of bringing us back to the beginning and talking about your specialist area of neuroscience. In that area of research, what are your kind of hopes or ambitions for the future? Say 10 years down the line, where will we be?
I think the one that everybody's focused on at the moment would be trying to find a cure for Alzheimer's dementia. That's really where most neuroscience research is focused these days. The treatments that we have available at the moment would be symptom relieving, so they're not really acting to do anything about the pathological hallmarks of the disease, and so that's where a lot of the investment in scientific research is focused, and I'm hopeful that we will make progress towards achieving that goal.
That's fascinating, and I'm delighted to hear that you are hopeful about the future. Thank you.
Thank you.